Greetings minions, I am your humble narrator, SideWaysThinker, and I'm just here with a brand new episode of that there Enigmatic Entity, a series in which I discuss the more uncanny video game characters. Yes, I know it's been quite some time since I've made an entry into this series, and if I'm honest, I'm not sure how many of these I'll be making now, but all the same, I'm back for at least one last hurrah. Today we're going to be discussing a character and series very dear to my heart, Igor from the Persona series. Specifically, we're going to be focusing on him as he is presented in the more recent Persona games, Persona 3 and 4. Hello there! You may be wondering why this clip's here, because if any of you have seen the Beg Your Pardon Igor episode before, not Beg Your Pardon, the Enigmatic Entity Igor episode before, you will know that there was originally a clip of Igor here. The reason that I'm here now instead is because the company that has the distribution rights in France, I believe, to Persona is being a dick. They essentially issued a takedown notice at me with essentially giving me the order to take it down within 7 days or get a copyright strike, which is absolutely absurd. Let me tell you why before I go on with the video. First of all, I'm sure many of you know this, but this video was originally uploaded to my main channel, SideWaysThinker, which is partnered, and at the time of recording, so I'm just moving that a bit, there we go, which at the time of my main channel is much bigger than this one, and is partnered, while at time of recording, I believe the Beg Your Pardon channel has about 200 subscribers, and is as of yet unpartnered, though I'm working on getting it partnered with the same network my main channel's partnered with. But yeah, some of you remember that it was uploaded there originally on my main channel, my larger main channel. And Melbury's Content ID'd, this company Melbury's Content ID'd it there. I appealed. They rejected the initial one. I disputed it. They rejected the initial dispute. I appealed that rejection, and then they backed down originally. They acknowledged that they had no actual basis on which to be claiming the money from that video, or to be claiming, or to have content ID'd that video, because that video was a fucking review. Because that video was analytical, it showed a tiny portion of a larger thing and was wholly transformative, very solidly, definitely, and distinctly within the realms of fair use. Not this time. Despite it being the exact same video and me using the exact same defense, because I essentially have a form letter for these things, they decided to, I disputed the claim, they rejected it, I appealed the dispute, I appealed the rejection, and then they issued a takedown notice. Yeah. Melbury's are cunts. They're cunts who distribute, the Persona anime in Europe. They're a French company that distributes the Persona anime in Europe. They don't fucking own the Persona anime. That it belongs to Atlus and the various Japanese companies that created it, not the French distributing arm. Melbury's are cunts. Melbury's are cunts. Melbury's are cunts. And Melbury's are cunts. You may say this is me being childish. Well, on YouTube, we get fucked around by companies who have very little right or legal reason to act, or legal basis to fuck us around. But because YouTube doesn't care about the content creators that have made its site's reputation and make up its site's basically almost all of its revenue, they don't care about us, and we have no actual recourse. I could try to take Melbury's to court, but I'd rather call them cunts. For the unaware, the Persona series is a spin-off of the popular Shin Megami Tensei series, published and developed by the Japanese game studio Atlus. The Persona games are typically turn-based RPGs, following a party of teenagers as they endeavour to uncover some kind of mystery relating to horrible creatures known as shadows, and they do this using separate powerful entities by the name of Personas. While most Persona users are only capable of using one persona unique to them, the main characters of the two most well-known entries into this series, Personas 3 and 4, are capable of using a vast array of personas, due to them having a talent referred to as the wild card, the term relating to the common use of tarot cards as references in the series. The games themselves play as a mixture of Pokemon-style collection RPG, dungeon crawler, and high school life simulator. Much like their parent series, the Shin Megami Tensei series, the Persona games have a tendency to reference subject matter often considered controversial in the US and the EU. Many of the personas the player can use being overtly demonic or satanic, though this is largely due to the personas themselves being based on myth, religion, and folklore from around the world. Persona 4 itself, touching on both issues of discomfort with one's homosexuality and another case of someone having issues with their gender identity. Another somewhat less delicately handled issue is teen suicide, referenced in the Invoker objects in Persona 3, the items the Persona users use to summon their personas, guns that they shoot themselves in the head with. The level of subtlety and grace does waver somewhat throughout the series. On to the character we're discussing, Igor. Igor is the only character to appear in every main Persona game in one way or another. His exact nature is uncertain as well as his real motivation. He is a short, apparently elderly and very bizarre-looking man, sporting pointed ears, an absurdly oversized nose, and hideously bulging eyes. Despite his somewhat monstrous appearance throughout the series, he is a force for good so far as the protagonists are concerned. It is he who explains to the protagonist the nature of personas, the nature of his unique wildcard gift, and then throughout the games it is to Igor the player must go to fuse his personas in order to create new personas, and to him the player must go to reclaim old personas for a price. He also plays some relatively minor role in the plot lines themselves, giving the players cryptic hints as to what is to come or what he has to do, but rarely, if ever, directly involving himself in the events of the game outside of the area in which he lives. The area in which one finds Igor is itself a matter of note. He is almost never seen anywhere but the Velvet Room, a strange pocket dimension that he invites the protagonist characters to. The room itself doesn't appear to have any definite dimensions or visual elements. The room changes drastically between games, indeed. In Persona 3, it appeared as a large and lavishly decorated elevator, while in Persona 4 it appears as the back area of a limousine. Regardless of its overall appearance, it always has a blue/purple colour to it, and curiously always seems to be in motion, either moving through an elevator shaft or driving along as the limo, with the exception of specific events within either game's plotline in which the room stops for a moment. The room itself can be entered in one of two ways. The first is via dreams. The protagonists many times find themselves dragged to the Velvet Room in their sleep, and indeed are at times told explicitly that they are in a dream. The second method of entry are blue doors that appear in certain locations, though the exact nature of these doors is also unknown. The others around the player don't seem aware of the doors, and indeed when seen entering a door it is remarked upon by the NPC characters, them saying that the player simply stopped moving and went into a trance-like state for the time that they perceived themselves being inside of the Velvet Room. This, combined with the dream entry, would imply that the Velvet Room simply doesn't exist, if it wasn't for 2 points that ruin that argument. The first, and most obvious from the get-go, is that what happens in the Velvet Room has a definite effect on events outside of it. The Persona Fusion and Reclamation abilities are clearly functioning, but only accessible within the Velvet Room. An argument against this is that the Personas are in some way inherently psychological, indeed functioning as reflections of the people who summon them. So one could argue that when the player characters enter the Velvet Room, it is simply the characters looking inward and reinventing themselves or reshaping their own minds, thus creating and fusing different personas, Igor in his room being simply a layer through which the player convinces themselves to do this. There is, however, another point. Other entities leave and enter the Velvet Room. Beyond Igor, there are other denizens of the Velvet Room, these being Elizabeth, Theodore, and Margaret. These people act as the servants of Igor, helping him in his work with the personas and with those possessing the wildcard trait. Not only this, but they are able to leave the Velvet Room and enter the real world, most famously evidenced with Elizabeth in Persona 3. As such, it would appear that the Velvet Room is a real place, accessible via the unconscious mind, but also to a limited degree via portals that allow people to move to and from it. This continues to beg the question, why does the Velvet Room exist, and what is Igor? There are a number of theories. Some theorize he may very well simply be a plot device, a curious entity with no actual explanation, who serves only to help the player character, acting as a glorified shopkeeper and tutorial. Another theory, one to which I subscribed for some time, is that he is Lucifer from the Shin Megami Tensei main series, as Igor bears some resemblance to a deformed version of Lucifer's two forms from Shin Megami Tensei 3, Nocturne. Both appear as suited old men, though at times Lucifer appears as a child in Nocturne. Both have white hair and wear dark suits, and both are accompanied at almost all times by a helper. This theory proved to be false, however, based on little more than aesthetic elements. Igor has a solid origin established in the franchise, though it is unknown to most, as most fans of Persona, myself included, have only played the games from Persona 3 onwards. Igor is a creation, specifically a doll created by the deity Philemon. Sorry if I've butchered the pronunciation there. In the series, Philemon is presented in the games as being a god of dreams who exists in the space between consciousness and unconsciousness in all human beings, and it is he who grants the ability to awaken, or access your persona, to human beings. He is unable to directly act in the world, relying on Igor in the Velvet Room to do so for him. The deity is locked in something of a war with another creature known as Nyarlathotep, a creature based somewhat on the H.P. Lovecraft deity of the same name, to see if humans are capable of rising above their baser nature and avoid causing their own destruction. The deity created the doll Igor and gave it life and power so that it may use the Velvet Room to aid humanity in this war, and Igor in turn created his servants, Elizabeth, Margaret, and Theodore, to help him in his job. Each of them are also dolls, created and given life by Igor. While they may directly serve Igor, they are themselves also servants of Philemon. Igor boldfacedly states as much in the early Persona games, though it becomes seemingly less relevant to the storyline of Personas 3 and 4, as neither Nyarlathotep or Philemon make overt appearances. It is of interest to note, however, that the Velvet Room and Igor himself are often seen related to a blue butterfly. At times, the blue butterfly sits in place of the doors to the Velvet Room until used to access said room. This butterfly, it is believed, is Philemon itself manifesting in the real world. Well, I think that's all I have to say on the subject of Igor, a mystery to many players simply due to the series' slow drift away from its first two entries and their relative obscurity compared to the popular Personas 3 and 4. I am quite interested to see if Igor's origins play any role in the upcoming Persona 5, which I am very excited for, but we will have to wait and see. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Enigmatic Entity, and I hope you all have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and all that, but that's going to have to be all from me for now. I've been your humble narrator, SideWaysThinker, and as always, keep calm and carry on. Good day. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching that video as much as I enjoyed making it. Well, I say that, I could have been having a really shitty day when I recorded that. You can't tell, and I certainly can't. Pre-recorded message and all that. Anyway, just here to say that I have a Twitter account that you can follow if you want occasional updates of random thoughts from me, and that if you're feeling generous, feel free to donate to my Patreon campaign. Every penny donated there makes life easier for me generally and slowly goes towards me getting a better gaming PC. Well, that's that. It's over. Leave. Now. Now!
Do not seek the SideWaysThinker. Do not seek the Pardoner.